Kurtop here, and these are 100 unusual discoveries of archaeologists made in the 21st century. Oldest hairstyle. This is an amazing find, a preserved hairstyle from an ancient Egyptian man dating back approximately 3,300 years. The intricate braids are striking in their complexity and excellent state of preservation. In ancient Egypt, hairstyles were of great importance and were often used to express status, age, and position in society. Hair care included the use of oils and fragrances, which also contributed to its longevity. Surviving details like these braids allow scientists to better understand how important appearance was to the ancient Egyptians and the skill required to create such hairstyles. Female chief and mythological creatures. Archaeologists have discovered a throne room in Peru that dates back to the 7th century AD. Researchers found this ancient hall with columns and colorful frescoes in the coastal valley of Panamarca, more than 400 kilometers from Lima. Scientists believe that the room was built by the Moche culture about 1,300 years ago, and it belonged to a female chief. The frescoes on the walls depict a woman on a throne receiving visitors. Archaeologists suggest that this may be an image of a ruler. The entire space of the hall was decorated with mythological scenes without empty surfaces. Archaeologist Jose Ochatoma says that the scenes on the frescoes tell about the ideology of the Moche, and another room was discovered nearby, the Hall of Intertwined Serpents. There, researchers saw frescoes depicting warriors and mythological creatures that have not been seen before in the archaeology of Peru. New alien mummies. In 2017, something unusual was discovered in a Peruvian cave. A dried-out Voldemort-like figurine with 3 fingers and an elongated skull attracted the attention of the entire world. An army of experts, including journalist and ufologist Jaime Maussan, were the first to study it. He even claimed that there were rare metals and alloys inside the mummies, like space implants. While scientists were arguing, the mummies found friends. 2 new finds, nicknamed Paloma and Antonio, amazed everyone. 3 fingers, slanted eyes, and an age of about 1,500 years. CT scans showed that their organs were similar to human ones. Traces of a knife blow were found on Antonio's body, and remnants of hair were found on Paloma. Hairy aliens are something new. Clay theater ticket. At the ancient city of Prusias na Hippias in northwestern Turkey, archaeologists have discovered a clay ticket from the Roman era, a statue of Aphrodite, and the top of a sacred thyrsus staff. The city, previously known as Hippios and Kyros, was renamed after King Prusias I of Bithynia, who captured it in the 3rd century BC. Later, under Roman rule, Prusias flourished and became an important cultural center. Among the surviving buildings in the city, the ancient amphitheater, known locally as the 40 Steps, stands out. This semicircular structure, 100 meters long and 74 meters wide, is decorated with carved steps with lion claw patterns. Despite earthquakes, the theater has remained virtually intact. About 80% of the structure has already been uncovered, and the artifacts found are in excellent condition. Something unexpected at the bottom of the sea. Off the coast of Sicily, fishermen spotted something unusual sticking out of the seabed, leading to a rare archaeological discovery. In January 2022, the remains of an ancient shipwreck were discovered at a depth of about 70 meters near the Vendicari Nature Reserve. When a team of marine archaeologists dove to the site, they found more than 40 rare Roman amphorae, many of which were preserved in their original positions as if they had just been loaded onto the ship. The amphorae, which are estimated to be between 1,900 and 2,100 years old, are a unique type of pottery known as Richborough. 527. This type of amphorae, with wide mouths, a spiral design, and a pointed bottom, were first found in Richborough, England, and have since been found in Lipari, Italy. Scientists believe that these amphorae were used to transport potassium alum, a mineral mined in Lipari. Engineering miracle in Egypt. Ancient Egypt continues to amaze modern researchers again. This time, an amazing tunnel was discovered under a temple in the ancient city of Taposiris Magna, which experts call a geometric miracle. The tunnel was found at a depth of 13 meters. Its length is 1,305 meters, and its height is about 2 meters. It is carved into sandstone and resembles the famous Eupalinos tunnel on the Greek island of Samos, which is considered an engineering miracle. The exact purpose of the tunnel is still unknown, but some of its parts are flooded with water. Archaeologist Martinez, who has been searching for the lost tomb of Cleopatra VII since 2004, believes that the tunnel may lead to important discoveries. Tap Osiris Magna was founded around 280 BC by Ptolemy II, one of Cleopatra's ancestors. Archaeologists believe the temple was dedicated to Osiris and Isis, deities with whom Cleopatra was closely associated. The team also plans to explore the Mediterranean Sea, as a series of earthquakes between 320 and 1303 caused part of the temple to collapse into the water. In my previous videos, I described how tunnels were discovered connecting Lake Mariu to the Mediterranean.
No one to eat corpses. The Zoroastrian Tower of Silence on Malabar Hill, a sacred site for the Parsi community, is under threat due to the dwindling vulture population in the area. The birds play a key role in the ritual of Domine Shini, the uncovering of the bodies of the dead so they can be returned to nature. However, a rapid decline in the number of scavengers in Mumbai since 2015 has put this ancient tradition at risk. The Tower of Silence, or Dakma, which is over 300 years old, is a circular structure that symbolizes eternity in the Zoroastrian faith. It is located in a 22-hectare forest. The outer circle of the tower is for men, the middle one for women, and the inner one for children. Before the body is placed in the Dakma, loved ones pray in special structures called bungalows, and the remains are then carried out by kandis, special caretakers. According to Zoroastrian traditions, contact with a dead body is considered desecration, and vultures play an important role in ensuring cleanliness and maintaining natural balance. But urbanization, habitat change, and environmental problems have led to a sharp decline in the number of these birds. The processes of decomposition of bodies have slowed down, which has created difficulties for performing the ritual.
Temple for a lion-headed goddess. An ancient temple carved into a rock has been discovered in Egypt in the Athribis region. It is estimated to be around 2,100 years old and dates back to the reign of Ptolemy VIII, who reigned from 170 to 116 BC. Known for his complex political and family history, the ruler left behind many monuments, and the new temple was an important find. The walls of the temple contain bas-reliefs depicting Ptolemy VIII making sacrifices to the lion-headed goddess Repet and her son Kolant. Repet was the wife of the god Min-Ra, who was associated with fertility. Archaeologists believe that the temple was dedicated to this goddess, although its name remains unknown. During excavations, scientists discovered a hall where temple utensils and amphora were stored. At the entrance to the room, unique bas-reliefs were found depicting Repet and Min-Ra. Of particular interest is the image of Min-Ra surrounded by decans, the stars by which the ancient Egyptians navigated at night. These stars combine human bodies with the heads of animals such as a falcon and an ibis. Bright glass beads. Archaeologists studying the Bronze Age in northern Italy have discovered thousands of glass beads dating back more than 3,000 years at the ancient settlement of Fraticina. These vibrant artifacts shed light on the first art of glassmaking in Europe. The team found a Bronze Age clay furnace surrounded by tools and the remains of glassware, a structure that has no analogs in Europe at the time. Among the finds are many multicolored beads that have retained their rich colors, from blue to red, from white to black, with patterns in the form of swirls and spots. Even after thousands of years, their colors remain bright, as if they had just come out of the furnace. The stability of the color is explained by the unique recipe of the local glass created on the basis of sand from the Po River, which gave the products durability. Fraticina, which flourished from 1200 to 1000 BC, was a center of handicraft production and trade. In addition to glass, amber, ivory, bronze, gold, tin, and iron were processed here. Arabian jewels in Russia. A record-breaking hoard of Arabian silver jewelry and coins dating back to the late 10th century has been discovered in Veliki Novgorod. The find was made on Vozdvizhinskaya Street during excavations at a construction site. This hoard, dubbed Vozdvizhinsky, was the third such discovery in the city. The hoard contained 1,800 whole and fragmented silver coins, as well as more than 80 silver jewelry pieces, weighing a total of about 3 kilograms. Among the jewelry pieces were some of the oldest silver crosses in Rus, which were previously little known. According to scientists, this is one of the largest archaeological discoveries in the history of Veliki Novgorod.
The mythical gold mine. In 1929, Australia found its Indiana Jones, Lewis Harold Bell Lassiter. He claimed that 3 decades earlier he had discovered a huge gold reef in the heart of the continent. There was almost no evidence, but rumors of a missing Klondike excited prospectors and historians. In 1930, Lassiter managed to assemble an expedition and set off into the outback again. He was accompanied by a pilot, 2 prospectors, Aboriginal guides, and even a representative of the governor. However, Lassiter was sullen, confused in his stories, and reluctant to show the way. Having reached Mount Marjorie, he declared that they were lost. His companions considered him an imposter and left. Lassiter was left with only a hunter, but soon the hunter also abandoned him. As a result, Harold continued on his way alone. A year later, he was found dead in a cave. According to his diary, he died of exhaustion after spending his last months among the natives trying to survive. Meanwhile, the legend of the reef did not die out. Numerous prospectors combed the McDonnell Range in the hope of finding gold. The press discussed the mysterious Swede Olof Johansson, who allegedly also knew the way to the treasure. Later, books and films appeared. Director Luke Walker in the project Lassiter's Bones found letters from Harold mentioning that same Olaf and hinting at the lost reef. Modern research has not confirmed large deposits in the designated area, although geologist Bill DeCarly came across a quartz layer reminiscent of Lassiter's description. He believes that Harold was just retelling other people's stories. Nevertheless, the mystery of the treasure continues to excite the minds of romantics and gold hunters.
Ice Age art. The Alp Donau mammoth in Germany is one of the oldest examples of Ice Age art, dating back some 35,000 years. This miniature figurine is carved from mammoth tusk, which in itself is evidence of the skill and artistic flair of primitive people. Discovered in the 1930s, the artifact has become an important link in the study of early human art. What makes this piece special is not only its age, but also its detail. The surface of the figurine is covered with notches, possibly symbolic or decorative, which add to the mystery of the artifact. They may be early examples of communication or spiritual ideas of ancient people. Archaeologists suggest that such figurines could have been used for ritual purposes, acting as talismans for hunters or symbols of good luck. The mammoth, which symbolized strength and endurance, probably played an important role in the worldview of primitive tribes. Lard from World War II. For decades after heavy storms, the sea on St. Cyrus Beach in Scotland has periodically washed up with lard, which ended up at sea due to the sinking of a ship during the Second World War. Recently, the waves washed up 4 more pieces of lard, each one retaining the shape of the barrels in which they were probably stored all those years ago. These unusual relics became known to locals after the merchant ship carrying the lard was sunk by bombs. It is believed that with each new storm, the wreck gradually releases some of its cargo, washing up on the shore in fatty blocks. Locals are familiar with this phenomenon and claim that the lard, despite the crust of barnacles that covers it, is in good condition and is suitable for use. During the war, when access to lard was limited, such finds became real treasures, helping people survive difficult times. Mysterious substance in a coffin. Archaeologists in northwestern China's Xinjiang region have made a shocking discovery. In an ancient coffin that was about 3,600 years old and contained mummies from the Bronze Age, a mysterious substance was found on the neck of one of the women. Today, scientists believe it is the oldest cheese in the world. The researchers isolated DNA from the substance and found that it was kefir cheese made from cow and goat milk. This discovery is important for understanding the origins of kefir and the evolution of probiotic bacteria. Jiao Mei Fu, from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and colleagues analyzed the bacteria, yeast, and proteins in the sample, which allowed them to identify the ancient cheese. The research suggests that kefir cheese was important to people at the time. It may have been placed in the grave as part of burial customs or as food for the afterlife. Interestingly, 2 types of cheese were found in the coffin, one made from goat's milk and one from cow's milk. Genetic studies have shown that the microorganisms in the cheese are similar to modern kefir strains found in East Asia and Tibet. This raises questions about the geographic origins of kefir. Previously, kefir was thought to have originated in the Caucasus, but new today points to a possible second source in Xinjiang. These results suggest that kefir has spread around the world via multiple routes, and its history is closely tied to the evolution of human culture.
The mythical giant. The Cardiff Giant, a supposed petrified man 10 feet tall, was discovered in 1869 by workers digging a well in Cardiff, New York. The giant was actually a fake, made from a block of gypsum. It was taken to a farm in Cardiff where it was buried for a year before being discovered by workers. The idea for the giant was George Hull's, who wanted to prove the public's naivety and exploit people's religious beliefs about giant men mentioned in the Bible. After the giant was found, it became the subject of mass attention, with spectators paying to see it. Barnum, a famous showman, offered to buy the giant but was refused. He then created his own replica and claimed that his version was genuine and the original was a fake. In 1870, both giants were found to be fakes, but the Cardiff Giant went down in history as one of the greatest hoaxes of the 19th century.
Gladiator-shaped knife handle. Archaeologists have found a rare artifact, the handle of a folding copper knife in the shape of a miniature gladiator. The find is over 2,000 years old and was discovered by divers in the River Tyne near Corbridge, a Roman settlement in Northumberland next to Hadrian's Wall. It is rare evidence that the admiration for Roman gladiators reached even the outskirts of the empire. The handle depicts a secular gladiator, a powerful warrior in heavy armor, with a closed helmet and a large weapon. The peculiarity of the figurine is that it depicts a left-handed person, which is surprising since in ancient Rome this was considered a bad omen. Perhaps the figurine represents a specific warrior specially trained to use his left hand to gain an advantage in the arena. Gladiators, despite often being slaves or convicted criminals, could be the real stars of their era. Their battles drew crowds to amphitheaters, and their victories turned fighters into legends. Even today, their romanticized image continues to attract attention, as evidenced by the success of movies such as Gladiator. How the handle ended up in the river and who its owner was remains a mystery. Invasion of witches and ghouls. In the Philippines in the 1950s, rumors spread about an invasion of aswangs, evil creatures from Filipino folklore similar to ghouls and witches. These mythical creatures allegedly attacked people, causing a wave of fear among the population. However, behind these rumors was not folklore, but a well-thought-out CIA operation. In order to suppress the Filipino rebels, American agents decided to take advantage of the superstitions of the locals. The CIA kidnapped locals or rebels, killed them in horrific ways, leaving their bodies in plain sight to cause panic. Rumors were then spread that these were attacks by aswangs. This tactic played on people's fears and beliefs, which led to a weakening of support for the rebels among the local population. It was a psychological war, the purpose of which was to break the fighting spirit of the people without resorting to open battles. This case shows how myths and folklore can be used for political and military purposes, becoming a powerful tool of manipulation.
Famous catman Key Marco. In front of the Marco Island Historical Museum in Florida stands a tall statue of a cat-like creature, a copy of a unique artifact that was found in 1896. The Smithsonian expedition was excavating a pond known as the Pile Dweller's Yard and discovered a wooden figurine under a layer of mud, a 15-centimeter tall figure of a catman, which they named Key Marco the Cat. It is believed that it was carved by the indigenous people of the island, the Calusa. The anthropomorphic features and resemblance to the Florida cougar allowed researchers to conclude that the figurine was created before the arrival of Europeans. Today, the Key Marco cat is on display at the Marco Island Historical Museum. This artifact is one of the most famous finds in Florida and is located there on a long-term loan from the Smithsonian Institution. The statue of the Catman has become a symbol of Marco Island. It is featured on street signs, souvenirs, jewelry, and even in the designs of local businesses. Austin Bell, the museum's curator of collections, wrote a book, The 9 Lives of Key Marco, a famous cat detailing the story of the find and its long journey through various museums. The Eerie Secret of the Black Death. A study of an ancient Egyptian mummy has shed light on the early spread of the deadly bubonic plague in North Africa. The 290-year-old remains kept in the Egyptian Museum in Turin have astounded scientists. Traces of the Yersinia pestis bacterium were found in the bones and even in the intestinal contents. It turns out that this disease penetrated the region long before the Black Death epidemic that raged in Europe in the 14th century. Until now, the oldest references to the plague came from Asia, 5,000-year-old finds in Russia and materials from Europe and Asia.
But the mummy from Turin has confirmed for the first time that the dangerous pathogen also settled in ancient Egypt. Scientists recalled that fleas were found in the village of Amarna, where the builders of Tutankhamun's tomb worked. They are the main carriers of the infection. There is even a reference in the Ebers Papyrus, over 3,500 years old, to a mysterious bubo filled with pus, suggesting that the plague may have spread from Nile rats to ship passengers, who eventually carried the disease throughout the Mediterranean. The Black Death thus became just a bright chapter in the long history of the plague, and it is now clear that its sinister waves swept across the world much earlier than previously thought, and Africa played a much more significant role in this process. Strip of holes in Peru. In the Pisco Valley in Peru, there is a mysterious place known as the Strip of Holes, or Monte Sierpe. It is a narrow strip of land 20 meters wide and about 1,500 meters long, strewn with thousands of shallow pits. Their exact purpose remains a mystery, although scientists have put forward many versions. The site first became famous thanks to an aerial photograph by Robert Shippey, published in the 1930s in National Geographic. Archaeologists have long avoided Monte Sierpe. It was only in the 1950s that Victor von Hagen studied the pits and suggested that they were empty graves, and their total number is estimated at 5,000. Later, John Hyslop put forward a version that the pits were used as warehouses, similar to those found in other places in Peru. Each hole is about a meter in diameter and up to a meter deep. They are made in different ways. Some are dug into the embankment, others are surrounded by stone walls. Modern research, including a detailed map created with the help of drones in 2015, has shown that the strip of holes consists of 6,000 pits divided into blocks with unique patterns. Nearby are Inca roads and remains of storage facilities, and the pottery found indicates that they originated in the 15th century when the Incas conquered the Chincha people. Archaeologist Charles Stanish believes that the pits could have been used to measure agricultural tribute that local farmers gave to rulers. Other scientists, such as Jean-Pierre Protzen, believe that the strip of holes may be even older. He believes that the pits could have been used to store fertilizers, such as excrement. To this day, the strip of holes remains one of the most mysterious archaeological finds in Peru. Who, why, and how created it are still the subject of debate and new research. Amethyst vase. This magnificent amethyst vase dates back to around the 8th century BC and belongs to the Neo-Assyrian period. Found in a private collection, it is an amazing example of the skill of ancient artisans working with semi-precious stones. Amethyst was highly prized for its rarity and beauty. Its deep purple color was associated with luxury and was considered a symbol of power and spirituality. Amethyst items were very difficult to create at that time because the processing of such a hard stone required a high level of skill and special tools. This vase was probably part of a ritual inventory or served to store valuables, perhaps incense or oils. Fine polishing and proportional shape indicate that the object was intended for noble owners, such as royal families or high-ranking officials. The Neo-Assyrian civilization was one of the most powerful in the ancient world, renowned for its art, architecture, and exquisite household items. Bronze artifacts in Turkey. At the ruins of the ancient castle of Ayanis, located in what is now Turkey, archaeologists have discovered bronze shields and a helmet that are about 2,700 years old. The artifacts, found under 20 meters of rubble, were created during the Dur-Sharrukin kingdom and were likely used for ceremonial purposes to honor the god Kaldi, a protector in war. Ayanis Castle was built as a fortress and royal residence during the reign of King Rusa II in the 7th century BC. However, it only stood for 25 years before it was destroyed by an earthquake. The newly discovered bronze shields and helmet were found in the ceremonial hall of the castle. Decorations on the helmet and intricate patterns on the shields confirmed that they were used in religious ceremonies. Other bronze objects have been found at the site previously, many of which are dedicated to Haldi, the main god of the Dur-Sharrukins, who was believed to protect them during warfare. Despite minor damage, the artifacts are well preserved, and restoration will help to restore them to their full form. Ayanis Castle remains the richest source of Dur-Sharrukin bronze artifacts in Turkey, and each find provides more information about the culture of this ancient kingdom.
A cache of royal regalia. An unexpected discovery in the dungeons of the Vilnius Cathedral shocked historians. A carefully walled-up vault with burial regalia associated with the rulers of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania and Poland was discovered. Crowns, scepters, chains, rings, and tablets belonging to King Alexander, his mother Elizabeth of Habsburg, and Barbara Radziwill, the wife of Sigismund Augustus, were found there. These items were not worn during life but were made specifically for burial ceremonies. According to researchers, the regalia were first discovered in 1931, but with the start of World War II, they were hidden deeper in the catacombs and walled up to protect them from looting. The location of this cache eluded archaeologists for decades until December 2024, when a detailed examination of all the cavities was carried out using an endoscope, comparing archival diagrams with new plans of the cathedral. In the end, the treasure was found. Barbara Radziwill, whose tragic fate became legendary, died shortly after her coronation, which made her burial regalia especially significant for her contemporaries. A miniature wonder. This miniature almanac with an embroidered cover, created in France around 1780, is a true masterpiece of 18th century decorative art. Its dimensions, only 3x7 centimeters, make it not only a work of art but also an intriguing collector's item. Such miniatures were popular among the French aristocracy and served both practical and aesthetic purposes. The cover, made of embroidered fabric, is decorated with an intricate pattern of flowers, which symbolized not only the taste of the era, but also the high skill of the needlewomen of that time. Red and blue decorative elements on the edges give the product additional sophistication. Such almanacs were often given as gifts, accompanied by personal inscriptions or poems, adding even more personal value to the item. Its small size suggests that it was intended to be carried in pockets or handbags, which allowed the owners to demonstrate their refined taste. It may have contained brief notes, calendars, or even love letters, making it a witness to intimate moments of life during those years.
Tunic of Alexander the Great. Archaeologists have discovered a fragment of rare purple fabric in a tomb at Vergina that may have been part of Alexander the Great's tunic and symbolized his power. The fabric was found in a gold vault next to the remains of a man buried wearing a gold wreath. The piece of fabric is a rare cotton for the time, dyed with Tyrian purple, an expensive dye associated with kingship. Purple clothing was traditionally worn by Persian kings, and Alexander adopted the practice after his victory over Darius III, emphasizing his divine status. Some historians believe that the tomb is that of Philip II, Alexander's father, while others believe that the artifacts may have belonged to Alexander himself or his brother Philip III Aridaeus, who inherited the royal regalia. Among other artifacts found were a gold diadem, a scepter, and a wreath with oak leaves, details often mentioned in historical sources about Alexander's royal regalia. The frieze of the tomb contains a hunting scene, which, according to researchers, depicts Alexander in a purple tunic. Incredible floor mosaic. In the Turkish village of Salkaya, located in eastern Anatolia, a farmer accidentally discovered an ancient floor mosaic while planting saplings. The 84-square-meter mosaic is believed to date back to the late Roman or early Byzantine period. It amazes with its size, intricate geometric patterns, and images of many animals and plants, such as a lion, ibex, greyhound, deer, bear, and Anatolian leopard. The farmer who discovered the artifact, Mehmet Emin Sual, reported the find to the local museum directorate and the gendarmerie. Excavations began with the support of the Turkish Ministry of Culture and Tourism. During the excavations, ruins of a church and a wine cellar were found next to the mosaic, confirming its historical value. The mosaic is well preserved and is an important discovery for the region.
A half-ton space find. A massive metal ring, more than 2.5 meters in diameter and weighing almost half a ton, has fallen near a Kenyan village. The Kenyan Space Agency suggests that the fragment may have been part of a launch vehicle that did not burn up during re-entry into the atmosphere. Locals noticed the object flare up at altitude and light up before it fell to the ground. Such situations are extremely rare since most space junk usually burns up or lands in the ocean. The incident reminded people of the consequences of 60 years of space exploration and made people afraid of another fall of debris.
The face of Tutankhamun's grandmother. Scientists have been able to reconstruct the appearance of Queen Ty, Tutankhamun's grandmother, thanks to modern 3D technology. Tai's mummy was found more than 120 years ago in the Valley of the Kings, but only now has it been possible to recreate her face with high accuracy. Experts have studied the structure of the skull, reconstructed soft tissue, volume under the skin, and hair based on data on the appearance of women in ancient Egypt. The result is an image of a woman with brown eyes, chestnut curly hair, a high cheekbones face, and dark skin. Tai's facial features are delicate and harmonious. Queen Tai was born around 1398 BC into a family that did not belong to the nobility. Her father Yuya was a chariot commander and her mother Tuya ran a harem. Thanks to her personal qualities, Tai became the wife of Pharaoh Amenhotep III and had a significant influence on Egyptian politics. She participated in the government, appeared in official documents, and enjoyed the respect of her husband. Her son Akhenaten carried out one of the largest religious reforms in Egypt, abandoning the traditional gods and making the cult of Aten the central figure. These changes had a strong impact on culture and art, and Tai's grandson Tutankhamun later restored the old traditions. His short but brilliant reign became famous thanks to the discovery of his tomb in 1922. Scientists have determined that Tai died at the age of 40, 60 most likely from natural causes. Some of her features, such as the shape of her chin, were passed on to her descendants, including Tutankhamun. Amber Bowl. This magnificent amber bowl, which is approximately 3,270 years old, was found in a large round barrow in Hove, England during excavations in 1856. Amber, a material known for its beauty and associated with the sun and life force, was used in ancient times not only for decoration, but also for ritual purposes. The discovered bowl, according to researchers, could have been a high-status item belonging to an important member of society or a chieftain. Creating such a bowl required exceptional skills because amber is a fragile material and working with it requires patience and skill. The discovered bowl shows that people of that time had access to rare and valuable materials, which also confirms the existence of trade links and exchange with other regions. The fact that the bowl was buried with its owner speaks of its significance for funerary rites or belief in the afterlife. Over 100,000 years old. Researchers continue to unravel the mysteries of our evolution, now discovering unusual 115,000-year-old footprints in northern Saudi Arabia. The tracks, preserved in a former mud pit in the middle of the Nafud Desert, have astonished scientists by appearing in a place where such ancient human tracks were not expected. The tracks are estimated to belong to early Homo sapiens rather than Neanderthals, confirming the migration routes of human ancestors in a changing climate. Thanks to a surprising combination of factors, the absence of strong winds and the local climate, the structure of the tracks has remained virtually intact, allowing them to be accurately dated and reconstructed as a short-term stopover by Lake Alatar during a dry period. The site appears to have served as a rest and watering place rather than a permanent settlement, as evidenced by the lack of tool or hunting traces. Some scientists believe that these tracks fit into the general migration route by which Homo sapiens moved from Africa to Eurasia. The new findings change our view of migration routes and clearly demonstrate how nature can carefully preserve the chronicle of life.
Message in a bottle. Norwegian archaeologist Jacob Bredesen was shocked when he discovered a message in a bottle that had been buried for over 150 years. The find was made during excavations of an ancient Viking burial mound. The message was left by archaeologist Anders Lorange in 1874 when he first explored the burial mound. Archaeologists have not opened a Viking burial mound in Norway for over 100 years, and it is incredible that they decided to re-excavate this one. The mound where the bottle was found belongs to the legendary king Audbjorn. He was buried with the largest Viking ship in the world. The Norwegian Ministry of Cultural Heritage initiated the excavation in order to nominate the mound for UNESCO World Heritage status. Inside the bottle, they found a note left by Lorange, 2 19th-century coins, his business card, and a letter. The translation of the text on the note reads, "This mound was excavated in 1874. Fallen warriors were buried here. They were burned together with the ship, weapons, and jewelry. 26 shields, 2 swords, an axe, Many arrows and other artifacts were found. All finds were transferred to the Bergen Museum. The mound became famous for the huge number of preserved artifacts, which confirms the funeral traditions of the Vikings, who often sent their warriors on their last journey on ships with weapons and armor. The Vikings were seafarers and conquerors from Scandinavia, who explored and conquered coastal territories from the 8th to the 11th centuries. Some scientists believe that they may have been the first Europeans to reach North America.
The first biological weapon. Scientists have confirmed a shocking story about a biological weapon used 800 years ago in Norway. During excavations in the ruins of Sverresborg Castle, archaeologists found the remains of a man who was thrown into a well to poison the water during the height of the medieval civil war in Norway. The story is described in the Scandinavian chronicle Sverre Saga, but many historians doubted its authenticity. According to the saga, during the siege of Sverresborg, a group supporting the archbishop known as the Baglers, having failed to find King Sverre Sigurdsson, decided to use the corpse as a means of poisoning the water. To confirm this, a team of scientists conducted DNA analysis of the remains found at the bottom of the well. Back in 1938, archaeologists found the intact remains of a man in a well at a depth of 6 meters, but further research was interrupted due to World War II. It wasn't until 2016 that scientists were able to conduct further excavations, which revealed that the well man was a man in his 30s or 40s with a head injury, which may have been the cause of his death. There was no clothing around him except for a preserved leather boot. DNA analysis and radiocarbon dating confirmed that the remains did indeed date to the conflict period. Discovery rewrites alcohol history. The process of distilling alcohol goes back much further than previously thought. New excavations at the tomb of Liu He, the 9th emperor of the Western Han dynasty, have revealed that distillation was already known in China 2,000 years ago. Scientists have found a bronze vessel called a heavenly pot, which served as a key part of a wine distillation device. Previously, historical texts only pointed to the emergence of such technologies during the Yuan dynasty, that is, 1,000 years later. Despite his short reign, Liu He left behind an impressive legacy. In addition to the distiller itself, the oldest painting of Confucius was found in his tomb, as well as thousands of pieces of armor made of iron, copper, and lacquered leather. All this testifies to the high level of craftsmanship of the Western Han era. An experiment with a replica of the bronze vessel showed a distillation efficiency of over 70% while preserving the taste and aroma of the drink. Initially thought to have been used for perfume essences or medicine, it is now clear that its primary purpose was alcohol production. The findings provide insight into the evolution of brewing and alcohol practices, complementing historical records and revealing the potential of early Chinese inventors. Imam Reza Mausoleum. This is one of the most important religious complexes in the Islamic world and a pilgrimage center for millions of Shiites. The architecture of the complex amazes with its grandeur and exquisite decorative work. Its splendor reflects many centuries of Iranian history, during which the complex was repeatedly rebuilt and decorated. The mosaics, mirror panels, and golden domes that adorn the mausoleum create an atmosphere that transports visitors to another world, a world of spirituality and silence. Every millimeter of space seems to come alive from the light reflected from thousands of mirror pieces, creating the illusion of infinity. The complex includes not only the mausoleum itself, but also mosques, libraries, museums, and religious schools. It houses valuable manuscripts, relics, and works of art that symbolize the rich cultural heritage of Iran. One of the most mystical features of the mausoleum is the ancient legend that prayers said here come true. Pilgrims from all over the world come to the tomb to ask for health, forgiveness, or a miracle. The mystery of the plush swan. Archaeologists believe that a felt figurine of a swan created in the Iron Age symbolized life. This artifact, known as the Pazyryk swan, was made of reindeer felt and stuffed with reindeer hair. The figurine belongs to the Pazyryk culture, associated with the nomadic peoples of the Saka group, which was considered the eastern branch of the Scythians. The swan is estimated to be 2,400 years old. It was found in the Pisco Valley in the Altai Mountains near the borders of Russia, Kazakhstan, China, and Mongolia. The figurine is about 30 centimeters tall. The swan's body was made of white felt, the eyes and wingtips were made of black felt, and the legs were made of a reddish-brown material. To make the swan stand upright, wooden sticks were inserted into its legs. It is believed that the figurine could have been mounted on a chariot or a tent-like structure that collapsed over time. The swan probably symbolized life in three spheres: air, earth, and water. Researchers note that images of waterfowl, such as swans and ducks, are often found in creation myths among ancient peoples. Excavations in Pazyryk began in the 1920s, but the swan figurine was found only in 1949. The unique preservation of this and other organic objects is explained by the peculiarities of the local climate. Many burial mounds are located in the permafrost zone, which allows artifacts to remain virtually untouched for centuries. Hoard of 11th century coins. At the future site of the Sizewell C nuclear power station in Suffolk, archaeologists from Oxford Cotswold Archaeology have discovered a rare hoard of 321 11th century silver coins in perfect condition. The coins were carefully sealed in a lead roll, which the researchers nicknamed paste because of its resemblance to a Cornish pasty. Archaeologist Andrew Pegg admits that his hands were shaking when he first saw the shiny edge of one of the coins. The dating of this find covers the era of three English kings at once: Harold I, Harthacnut, and Edward the Confessor. Most of the coins were minted in London, but there are also examples from Thetford, Norwich, Ipswich, and even Lincoln. According to archaeologists, the owner of the hoard belonged to the wealthy middle class and, fearing political change, decided to hide his savings. Most likely, he was unable to return for them or find the place where he buried the treasure.
Cinderella's slipper. The story of Cinderella, one of the most beloved and famous fairy tales, has deep roots dating back to ancient times. Many cultures have created their own versions of the tale, from Greek to Chinese. However, the first European literary version, included in Giambattista Basile's Pentamerone in 1634, tells an unusual version of the story. In the Italian tale, the heroine, Zizola, is shown to be anything but innocent. Her first stepmother is killed by her own design, after which a cunning governess takes her place. But after marrying Zizola's father, she turns into an even more cruel stepmother, adding 6 daughters who drive the heroine to despair. In the end, everything ends with a wedding with the king, although Zizola leaves behind a not-quite fairy tale path. Interestingly, in the Italian version, Cinderella loses not a glass slipper, but Chopin unusual shoes with a high platform. These accessories were popular in Europe from the 14th to the 17th centuries, especially in Venice. Made of wood or cork, they could reach incredible heights, up to 50 centimeters or even higher. Chopin served not only to protect against dirt, but also as a status symbol. The higher the platform, the higher the woman's position in society. This strange element of footwear perfectly reflects the spirit of the times and the social realities of the era. Venetian Chopins with their massive soles were real works of art, often decorated with brocade, embroidery, or jewelry. Perhaps it was thanks to this unusual attribute of footwear that Cinderella managed to attract the attention of the king, even though it was not easy to walk in them.
Cursed emeralds. These emeralds, which are called cursed, became one of the most tragic finds in the history of treasure hunting. They were discovered by J. Miskovich, a man who dedicated his life to searching for ancient treasures. In 2010, off the coast of Florida, he managed to find a deposit of emeralds valued at several $1,000,000. At first glance, this was luck, capable of changing his life for the better. However, the find soon attracted the attention of not only the media, but also federal agencies, including the FBI. Legal proceedings and inspections began, the purpose of which was to determine the origin of the precious stones. Complex legal battles and public pressure turned Miskovich's life into a nightmare. Constant accusations and pressure from the authorities made his existence unbearable, and he eventually committed suicide. This tragedy became the basis for the legend of the Cursed Emeralds, which brought their owner not wealth and success, but pain and suffering. Today, the story serves as a grim reminder that great discoveries can sometimes have horrific consequences.
Personal sacrifice. During excavations at Huacasal Viejo in northern Peru, archaeologists have uncovered a startling practice. Adolescents were sacrificed along with their high-ranking relatives. Genetic analysis of remains more than 1,500 years old revealed that the boy and girl were the son and niece of the Moche ruler, Sesora de Sao. Moreover, the girl's father was one of the nobleman's brothers, also buried in the same tomb. Unlike the public ritual sacrifices common among the Moche, the victims here were strangled in a private ceremony in honor of a noblewoman. Scientists speculate that such a ritual may have served to strengthen power or family ties, but the exact motives remain a mystery. Artifacts found with the bodies indicate the deceased's high status, and strangulation may have been considered an honest way to send her companions to the afterlife. For the Moche, whose temples and tombs often contain evidence of sacrifice, this is a rare case of kin sacrifice. Precious old brooch. A mother and daughter presented an antique brooch in the shape of a ballerina on the British show Antiques Roadshow, which airs on the BBC. The decoration immediately caught the attention of jewelry expert Joanna Hardy. The brooch turned out to be exquisite. Turquoise, rubies, diamonds, and 18-karat gold, materials that look refined and elegant. Hardy noted that the brooch could be a collector's item and is worth a fortune. The daughter said that the brooch was given to her mother by a Polish jeweler in the 1970s and 1980s. When he closed his shop, he allowed the woman to choose any item. She chose a ballerina since she used to teach at a ballet school in Chester. For her, the decoration had a special symbolic meaning. The expert tried to establish the origin of the brooch. According to her, the piece has all the hallmarks of Van Cleef and Arpels, a famous company that has been making ballerina-shaped brooches since the 1940s. However, there was no brand mark on the piece, so only the company itself can confirm its authenticity. If the brooch is genuine, its value could reach tens of thousands of pounds.
Tree guy. In Ireland, after a hurricane felled a 215-year-old beech tree, the skeleton of a young man who died in the Middle Ages was found in its roots. Surprisingly, in 1800, the tree was accidentally planted right on the grave, and its roots grew through the remains, preserving important details that allowed scientists to study the history of the young man. Analysis showed that he was 20 years old. Judging by his diet, the young man ate well and probably belonged to the wealthy part of society. However, the study also revealed a curvature of the spine, which may indicate hard physical work in childhood. The cause of death was violence. 2 notches were found on the ribs, indicating knife wounds. This case highlights the importance of chance archaeological discoveries that shed light on the personal stories of people who lived centuries ago. Tomb of the Magician. In Saqqara, the necropolis of ancient Memphis, archaeologists have discovered the tomb of the royal physician Teti Nebfu, who lived about 4,000 years ago. According to the surviving inscriptions on the walls and sarcophagus, it has been established that he served under the pharaoh Pepi II and held many titles: chief physician of the palace, chief dentist, director of medicinal plants, priest and magician of the goddess Selket. Since Selket patronized dangerous creatures with poison, scientists believe that Teti Nebfu knew how to treat poisonous bites. Despite the fact that the tomb was partially looted, its walls have been preserved in excellent condition and are decorated with bright paintings, scenes of offerings, a false door, ritual images. In addition to royal burials, burials of royal officials, including associates and servants of Pepi II, were previously found in Saqqara. Recently, several stone sarcophagi with hieroglyphs dedicated to the gods of Upper and Lower Egypt were also excavated there. According to experts, the splendor of Teti Nebfu's final resting place speaks to the high status of healing and magic at that time. The Egyptians had deep knowledge of anatomy, knew how to treat serious illnesses, and considered words and rituals to be as important as medicines. The source of all things. The clay sculpture Seated Mother Goddess from Balochistan, Pakistan, dates back to the Bronze Age and is dated to around 2500 to 2000 BC. This artifact, measuring only 8.6 centimeters by 2.9 centimeters, is kept in the collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. The sculpture depicts a mother goddess, a symbol of fertility and motherhood. A characteristic feature is the detailed elaboration of the hairstyle in the form of twisting curls, which may symbolize vitality and protection. Large breasts and hips emphasize the cult of the feminine principle, common in ancient cultures associated with agriculture. Of particular interest is the similarity of this sculpture with similar artifacts found in other regions, such as Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. There are assumptions about the ritual purpose of the sculpture. Probably it was used in ceremonies associated with the fertility of the earth and women. A more mystical interpretation hints at a connection with ancient cosmic cults, where the figure could symbolize the connection between heavenly and earthly forces, being a mediator between the worlds. Stone sarcophagus. In Italy, archaeologists have discovered an intact 2,500-year-old sarcophagus that lay hidden underground near the volcanic Lake Bolsena. During excavations of the ancient Etruscan settlement of Bisenzio on the shores of the lake, several graves dating back to between 700 and 500 BC were found. To the surprise of scientists, none of the burials had suffered from looting, which is rare for such an ancient site. Of particular interest was a simple stone sarcophagus that preserved its contents in their original form. Using an excavator, archaeologists lifted the heavy lid and found an almost completely preserved skeleton inside. Next to the remains was a small clay vessel, which, according to experts, could symbolize personal belongings or offerings to the deceased. The find is unique and gives researchers a rare opportunity to study the remains of an ancient Etruscan. Scientists hope that further analysis of the skeleton will provide valuable information about the life and culture of this people.
The most outstanding discovery of the year. During excavations near the German city of Retz, scientists came across a unique brooch dating back to the 7th century. This exquisite piece of gilded silver inlaid with red garnets, almandines, is considered one of the most significant finds of 2024. According to archaeologist Detlef Jansen, the brooch could have belonged to members of the elite, since such items are most often found in rich burial complexes. The luxurious Cloisonne enamel technique used to secure the precious stones formed complex geometric patterns reminiscent of intertwined snakes. The thinnest layer of gold on the base enhances the depth of the garnet's color, and the oval shape of the brooch lends it a special elegance. It is believed that the piece of jewelry dates back to the period of the Great Migration of Peoples, 3rd–6th centuries, when extensive migrations radically changed the political and cultural map of Europe. Greetings from the Neolithic. This magnificent artifact, a bare-headed dagger, was found in the Piajoki area of Finland and dates back to the Stone Age, approximately 4000–2000 BC. Its exquisite design of striped stone is evidence of the high level of craftsmanship of the ancient craftsmen. The bare head on the dagger's handle is not only decorative but may have symbolized strength, endurance, and spiritual guidance. In a cultural context, it may have been used in rituals related to hunting or the worship of animals that were considered sacred protective spirits. The bear was a particularly revered creature in the mythology of ancient Finnish tribes, associated with the world of ancestors and nature spirits. The blade shows no obvious signs of use, which may indicate its ceremonial significance. Such an artifact may have belonged to an important person in the community, such as a chieftain or shaman, who used it for special ceremonies. Skeleton from different eras. Archaeologists in Belgium have found an unusual skeleton consisting of the bones of 5 people who lived several thousand years apart. The remains were discovered in a Roman-era cremation cemetery in Pomerol, near the border with France. As it turned out, this strange individual is 2,500 years older than the Roman period. Moreover, radiocarbon dating showed that the bones date back to the Neolithic period, that is, to the period between 7000 and 3000 BC. Excavations of this cemetery began in the 1970s, and among 76 cremation burials, scientists discovered an unusual burial, a skeleton in the fetal position. According to initial assumptions, it was Roman, since a Roman-type bone pin was located next to the skull. However, a detailed analysis in 2019 led to unexpected conclusions. The skeleton was made up of bones belonging to different people, and the pin itself was dated to around 69–210 AD. Scientists suggest that the Romans may have accidentally disturbed the Neolithic burial, adding the skull and pin to complete the composition. However, why and how the different remains were collected together remains a mystery. Meteorites help win the lottery. In 2015, a bright meteor flew over Kanchanaburi, Thailand, lighting up the sky with green and orange flashes. Since then, there have been rumors that its debris has scattered around the area. In fact, meteors have visited Thailand more than once in recent years, leaving people with black stones that are believed to have magical powers. The most famous story comes from Phatthalung province. A married couple from Sirapu Adon discovered strange boulders weighing up to 20 kilograms in a palm plantation. At night, lightning struck the garden, and in the morning the couple saw burning holes with mysterious fragments in them. Having taken the gift from heaven home, they soon felt a surge of energy and noticed that they began to quarrel less. Interested neighbors noticed unusual patterns on the surface of the stones, mistaking them for lucky numbers for the lottery. This is a popular hobby in Thailand. Although there was no big win, the belief in special properties only grew stronger. Now, people often come to the owners to charge themselves with cosmic energy, and some are thinking about making money on such relics. This cult of heavenly stones shows how a natural phenomenon can turn into a mystical one, reflecting a craving for miracles and a desire to join the secrets of space. Ancient currency. A bronze coin attributed to Pontius Pilate, the prefect of Judea, was minted between 26 and 36 AD during the reign of the Roman Emperor Tiberius. This small artifact is a powerful symbol of the power and influence of the Roman Empire in the territory of ancient Judea. Coins of this period reflect not only economic activity but also the political and religious aspects of the era. The obverse of the coin usually depicted a cult object associated with Roman gods, which emphasized Rome's desire to impose its culture. However, this caused conflicts with the local Jewish population, for whom images associated with pagan beliefs could be blasphemous. The reverse side of the coin often depicted symbols such as a cornucopia or kettle drums, symbolizing prosperity and control. Inscriptions on the coin contain references to Tiberius, reinforcing his authority as a ruler. Guardian statues. A joint Cambodian-Chinese team has been excavating the entrance gate to the royal palace, built in the 11th century for the kings of the Khmer Empire. The palace is part of the Angkor Thom complex, which includes the famous Angkor Wat Temple. During the excavations, archaeologists discovered 12 ancient guardian statues made of sandstone. The figures, created around the 11th century, were previously placed on top of the gate in 2 rows. Each statue is unique in size and detail, and stands at least a meter tall. Photos show the statues as standing figures, some holding a staff in their right hand, surrounded by elaborate decorative elements around their heads. The condition of the statues varies, with some remaining almost intact and others cracked and worn by time. According to archaeologists, the Angkor Thom Palace was regularly modified during the 600 years of rule by various Khmer kings. The team plans to clean and restore the statues to return them to their original locations.
Hidden medieval stories. Iceland has a rich literary history dating back to the Middle Ages. Here on an island with a population of just 380,000, many people write books following traditions that began with the Vikings. Scholars believe that the skalds, Icelandic poets, not only glorified the kings of Norway, but also laid the foundation for epic prose and vast bodies of knowledge. Medieval texts, from royal sagas to theological treatises, were written on expensive calfskin parchment, vellum. When a book aged, its materials were often reused, the text was cut out for new entries, or covers were made from the scraps, and sometimes even church mitres. In particularly rare cases, palimpsests appeared, parchments on which the old text was erased or scraped off, and new text was written in its place. This practice became especially widespread after the Reformation of the 16th century, when Latin services were replaced by Icelandic. But fragments of the old are often visible beneath the new writing, and modern methods make it possible to unravel the mysteries of a bygone era. Plate proves to be important artifact. A gold plate dating back to the 6th to 7th centuries AD has recently been discovered in England. It was discovered by a metal detectorist in Climping, West Sussex. This rare piece of early medieval art is now on display in the Littlehampton Museum Archaeology Gallery. The plate was most likely used to decorate a sword, although it could have been part of other valuable items. A museum spokesman called it a tiny masterpiece and noted the exquisite filigree of twisted gold wire, a clear indication of the skill of Anglo-Saxon craftsmen of the time. Decorative elements of this level demonstrate the importance attached to the art of weapon decoration in the early Middle Ages. Now, visitors to the Littlehampton Museum can see up close the exquisite designs and complex techniques used by 6th and 7th century craftsmen. Rock tomb. In Malta, construction workers have accidentally stumbled upon an ancient tomb dating back some 2,300 years. In September, while installing new water lines near a hospital in the town of Birkirkara, workers discovered a chamber cut into the rock. Archaeologists later confirmed that it was a Punic tomb. Subsequent excavations revealed the tomb's central well and 3 burial chambers. The entrances were sealed with the original stone slabs. Through narrow cracks, archaeologists saw skeletons and artifacts. Inside the chambers were bones arranged in a specific pattern, as well as urns with ashes. The bones were likely moved to make room for new burials. In total, at least 14 burials were found in 3 chambers. The remains have already been moved to a lab for further analysis. Archaeologists plan to conduct radiocarbon dating and DNA analysis to learn more about the Punic community that created the tomb. The Punic civilization, also known as the Carthaginian Republic, was one of the most influential powers in the Mediterranean until its conquest by the Romans around 150 BC. The cost of building the Cheops Pyramid. We are used to skyscrapers that grow with the help of metal frames and modern technology, but the Cheops Pyramid, built around 2600 BC, still amazes the imagination. Its height reached 146 meters, and only by the 13th century AD did buildings appear higher. To understand how much it would cost to build such a pyramid today, historians and engineers estimated the costs of stone, transportation, salaries, crane rental, and other details. The amount is impressive, about $5 billion. After all, about 2.5 million cubic meters of limestone will be needed, for which you'll have to go to quarries, and for the interior cladding, thousands of tons of granite from Aswan, located hundreds of kilometers away. Add to this designers, geologists, fuel for transporting blocks and giant cranes. In ancient times, everything was done by hand. It is believed that thousands of free workers worked on the construction site, regularly changing teams that received decent food and housing. They moved multi-ton blocks along ramps using wooden rollers and erected a colossal structure that was surprisingly precise in its fit. Even today, it is impossible to fit a knife blade between some of the stones. According to some experts, the construction took from 20 to 27 years. About 2 tons of meat were needed daily to feed the workers, not counting grain, vegetables, and water. It is noteworthy that the project itself was headed by Himeun, the pharaoh's nephew, who actually acted as the chief architect. It was he who coordinated the work of tens of thousands of people, which in itself speaks of the impressive organization of labor in ancient Egypt. Today, the pyramids remain not only an object of historical heritage, but also a source of eternal questions about what humanity is capable of in order to realize ambitious goals. For the Egyptians, the Pyramid of Cheops was more than just a building. It was a symbol of the pharaoh's power and the highest engineering achievement of its time, which still inspires us to bold achievements. A matrix for making gold images. In the central part of the island of Falster, located in the southeast of Denmark, an enthusiast with a metal detector made an incredible discovery that could rewrite not only the history of the region, but also shed light on little-known pages of Danish history. Lennart Larsen, walking in the rain in search of artifacts, heard a weak signal from his device. After digging up the ground, he found a small, unusual object, an ancient matrix for making gold images, which were presumably used in cult rites as offerings to the gods. According to archaeologists from the Lolland and Falster Museum, this find may be associated with an ancient center of power or religious activity. The matrix, only 2 centimeters in size, dates back to the period between 500 and 700, a time before the beginning of the Viking Age. Such artifacts are incredibly rare. Only 28 such matrices have been found in Scandinavia, and none south of the Baltic Sea. The Falster matrix depicts a man in fine clothing standing with his hands down and palms outward. This gesture is found in both pre-Christian and Christian cultures and symbolizes either submission or revelation. The details of the image remain a mystery. It is not yet known whether the matrix depicts a man or a woman. It is possible that this is the figure of a king expressing devotion to a deity, or conversely, a god appearing to a man. Books made from people. In the 18th and 19th centuries, there was a gruesome practice of binding books in human skin. This rare and shocking phenomenon was called anthropodermic bibliophagy. Some copies of medical or philosophical treatises, as well as personal diaries, could be bound in the skin of deceased people, most often in memory of them. For example, some doctors used the skin of their patients to bind medical texts in order to immortalize their contributions to science. Books like this have become the subject of increased interest and research. Modern technology, including DNA analysis and chemical testing, can determine whether a binding is actually made from human skin. This phenomenon reflects not only the medical and scientific interests of the era, but also attitudes toward death, memory, and the body.
Today, anthropodermic books are rare artifacts that evoke both horror and intrigue, as well as a reminder of the strange and controversial traditions of the past. The Last Refuge of the Lonely Woman. From 1835 to 1853, a Nicolaso woman lived alone on San Nicolas Island, the furthest island in the English Channel. It was this story that inspired Scott Odell to write Island of the Blue Dolphins. When her people were evacuated due to the threat of otter hunters, the ship quickly sailed away, leaving the young girl alone. According to some accounts, she jumped into the water to save a boy. According to others, she was left behind by a strong storm. In any case, she lived in isolation for the next 18 years, eating seals, roots, and shellfish. Fishermen often spotted a mysterious figure on the shore, but they were unable to catch her. Finally, trapper George Nidiver and his companions, seeing fresh tracks, found this brave islander dressed in a skirt of green cormorant feathers. The woman turned out to be friendly and cheerful, although she spoke a language that no one understood. Her entire tribe had disappeared by that time, and attempts to communicate were limited to gestures and original chants. She lived with Nidiver for 7 weeks, then fell ill with dysentery and died, having managed to accept Christianity under the name Juana Maria. Artifacts found later, harpoons, hooks, shell jewelry, testify to her way of life and craftsmanship. San Nicolas Island today serves as a military base, and the fate of a lonely woman remains one of the most touching stories of survival and fortitude. 100 Iron Age artifacts. Archaeologists in Denmark have made an incredible discovery. More than 100 weapons, including spears, swords, knives, and rare chainmail. They were all found beneath the home of an Iron Age chieftain. The collection is around 1,500 years old and may have been part of a ritual offering after a military success. The weapons were found beneath 2 5th-century houses, likely belonging to a powerful chieftain who could raise an army. The items include 119 spears, 8 swords, 5 knives, an axe, and a chainmail suit that is believed to have belonged to the chieftain himself. Such armor was expensive and difficult to make, highlighting its importance. In addition to the weapons, archaeologists have also found bronze neck rings, known as oath rings, symbols of power in the Iron Age. Fragments of harness, a bronze horn, and other metal objects have also been found, which have yet to be studied. Denmark was on the fringes of the Roman Empire in the 1st to 4th centuries, part of Magna Germania. The locals were mostly farmers, but Romans like Julius Caesar mentioned fierce Germanic warriors. Some scholars suggest that the Romans may have supplied local tribes with weapons to maintain order on the borders. Photograph of ancient fishing. Scientists have discovered the oldest images of fishing, which were found on slate plates from the archaeological site of Gonnersdorf in western Germany. These images are about 15,800 years old. They belong to the Magdalenian culture. The study of 406 plates found earlier was carried out using modern imaging techniques. Scientists have established that the drawings of fish and mesh patterns on the plates represent a single composition depicting the use of fishing nets. 11 images of fish were found on the plates, 8 of which are surrounded by nets. The figures were scratched onto smooth areas of slate. First, the fish was depicted, and then the mesh pattern was added. The fact that the Magdalenians ate fish is confirmed by fish bones found at their sites. Scientists believe that the nets were made from plant fibers such as nettles. Other evidence of Paleolithic fishing has been found previously, including hooks dating back up to 42,000 years and traps. The Gonnersdorf plates also contain images of deer, horses, mammoths, and female silhouettes, making them a valuable source of knowledge about the lives of ancient people. It existed. Until recently, scientists believed that the grandiose project to build the capital of Assyria, Dur-Sharrukin, Khorsabad, froze in a half-finished form after the death of King Sargon II. However, new geophysical research proves the opposite. The city was completed and actively functioning. Archaeologists used the magnetometry method, which allowed them to discover the remains of an impressive 127-room villa, probable royal gardens, and a water gate, as well as other large structures. All these discoveries indicate that Khorsabad was a thriving center beyond the main palace. Conceived by Sargon II himself in 713 BC as the Fortress of Sargon, the city did not sink into oblivion after his death.
New data contradicts the long-standing opinion about the unfinished project and reveals the hidden life of the ancient capital. Work resumed in 2017 after the area was liberated from ISIS. Led by the French Archaeological Mission, the team used a high-precision magnetometer to visualize underground structures without expensive excavations. It turned out that Khorsabad, contrary to long-held doubts, served as a full-fledged capital of Assyria, and now modern discoveries are revealing even more about the scale and wealth of the ancient empire. Prehistoric petroglyphs in a unique place. In the Italian Alps on Mount Pizzo Tricero, amazing prehistoric petroglyphs were discovered, recognized as the highest in Europe. These rock paintings were found in the summer of 2017 by a tourist, Tommaso Malinverno, who noticed strange carved figures on a rock at the foot of the Tricero Glacier in the Stelvio National Park. Archaeologists dated the petroglyphs to the Middle Bronze Age, that is, they are about 3,200 years old. The uniqueness of these finds lies not only in their age, but also in their altitude, more than 3,000 meters above sea level. This suggests that people at that time were developing high mountain territories. The drawings include figures of people with their hands raised to the sky, spirals, images of animals, and geometric patterns, the meaning of which is still unclear. In November 2024, another important discovery was made in the Lombardy region where the Stelvio Park is located. A 280-million-year-old fossilized ecosystem was found in the Orobi Valtellini Park. This confirms that the region is a true window into the past, combining paleontological and archaeological heritage.
Ruled even after death. The Incas had a unique attitude towards their deceased rulers, considering them not simply as deceased, but as continuing to live and rule even after death. The mummies of the rulers were preserved and revered as if they were alive, possessing their own lands and wealth. Surprisingly, the domains of such mummies continued to be managed by their servants, and the mummies themselves participated in important rituals and even meetings. These rulers were believed to be able to give advice and influence the life of society while remaining the eternal masters of their lands. Over time, this created difficulties, as large areas ended up under the control of the dead, which interfered with the distribution of resources and the management of lands among the living. This influence of the mummies of the rulers became a challenge for Inca society, especially in a context of limited resources. The Incas tried to maintain a balance between the veneration of ancestors and the needs of the living, which makes their culture unique and deeply symbolic. This phenomenon highlights how closely spiritual and practical life were intertwined among the Incas.
Ancient Egyptian bread. The bread, estimated to be between 3,369 and 3,406 years old, was found in the tomb of an architect who served Pharaoh Amenhotep III. The bread is an amazing example of how food was preserved thanks to the advanced mummification techniques used by the ancient Egyptians. The Egyptians mummified not only their bodies, but also the food they believed the dead could use in the afterlife. The process involved treating the food with salt, drying it slowly, binding it, and coating it with resin to protect it from deterioration. The loaves show traces of their characteristic texture and shape, confirming their origin and ritual role. The bread was a symbolic and practical preparation for life after death, reflecting the Egyptians' deep belief that they would need everything they had on earth in the afterlife. Spanish bronze barrel. Archaeologists have discovered the oldest firearm in the continental United States. The Spanish bronze barrel was found in Arizona and is believed to have belonged to members of the expedition of Francisco Vázquez de Coronado. This expedition, which took place from 1539 to 1542, was the first attempt by Europeans to cross the Great Plains, but its results were insignificant, and Spain abandoned further plans to develop these lands. The find is a cast bronze barrel 106.7 centimeters long and weighing about 18 kilograms. This weapon, similar to a culverin, could fire grape shot or small cannonballs. It was discovered during excavations of an adobe building in the settlement of San Jeronimo III, where the expedition members were located. According to researchers, this weapon was of great value and was left in working order. Archaeologists believe that it was abandoned during an Indian attack on the settlement in 1541. This unique artifact became important evidence of the use of advanced technologies at that time by Europeans in North America. Artificial eye. Here is the oldest known artificial eye in the world, which was found in a woman's burial in the burnt city, Shahi-e-Sukte, in Iran. This unique artifact is over 4,800 years old. The eye prosthesis was a hemisphere made of a lightweight material based on bitumen paste. It was covered in gold, and its surface had slits imitating the pupil, which gave it a realistic appearance. The prosthesis was secured with two small holes through which a cord, similar to a modern bandage, was passed, which allowed it to be held in place. The woman wore this eye during the day to hide the empty eye socket, and at night she carefully stored it in a leather pouch found along with other burial items. Such a level of craftsmanship and care for appearance amazes even modern researchers. This find testifies to the high level of medical and craft knowledge of the ancient civilization, as well as the desire of people of that time to preserve their appearance and maintain dignity. Child finds Neanderthal tool. 3 years ago, 6-year-old Ben picked up an unusual stone on a Sussex beach. He forgot about the find when he got home, but it later turned out to be a 50,000-year-old Neanderthal axe. When Ben's family contacted James Sainsbury, curator of the Worthing Museum of Archaeology, he expected to see an ordinary cobblestone, but one look confirmed its uniqueness. This is a hand axe of late Neanderthals. They are extremely rare because at that time their population was small. The museum has only one such example, and the new find, judging by the state of preservation, lay underwater for a long time. Researchers date this period to the end of the existence of Neanderthals in Europe when they were already occupying British lands. Probably the stone was carried along with pebbles from the English Channel, or even from the flooded region of Doggerland, inhabited by people thousands of years ago. On November 24th, Ben and his parents delivered the axe to the museum. An hour later, it was on display. Sainsbury stressed that this was a rare find for Sussex. Ben's family is pleased that the accidental discovery has become a major contribution to science.
9 commandments out of 10. The oldest known stone slab with 9 of the 10 commandments carved into it is set to go up for auction. Experts estimate that the price could reach $1, $2 million. The marble slab dates back to between 300 and 500 AD and was discovered in 1913 during railroad construction on the southern coast of modern-day Israel, near the sites of early synagogues, mosques, and churches. The marble slab, which is about 2 feet tall and weighs 115 pounds, contains 20 lines of text in Paleo-Hebrew. It first hit the market in 2016 and sold for $850,000. For a long time after its discovery, the significance of the slab remained unclear. At one point, it was even used as a tile at the entrance to a house, which is why some of the letters were erased. In 1943, archaeologist J. Kaplan acquired the tablet and identified it as the Samaritan Decalogue, created by the Samaritans, an ancient religious group whose beliefs were based on the Old Testament but differed from Judaism. The tablet's text almost completely matches the biblical commandments familiar to both Christians and Jews. However, one of the commandments, "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain," is missing. Instead, it is instructed to worship on Mount Gerizim, reflecting the religious beliefs of the Samaritans. Bronze rock crystal sword. This stunning bronze sword with turquoise inlay and gold trim is from the Warring States period of China, spanning the 4th to 2nd centuries BC. It was a period when numerous kingdoms fought for dominance and influence, and the art of war reached a high level of perfection. This sword stands out not only for its military purpose, but also for its incredible craftsmanship. The sword's handle is made of rock crystal, which gives it a special sophistication and makes it not only a weapon, but also a work of art. The turquoise inlay adds unique color accents, and the use of gold emphasizes the status of the owner, probably one of the nobility or a high-ranking warrior. Such swords not only served as a symbol of power and influence, but also demonstrated the skill of ancient Chinese blacksmiths and jewelers. Chatsworth's Great Orangery. Long before Joseph Paxton built the iconic Crystal Palace for the Great Exhibition of 1851, he honed his craft at Chatsworth House in picturesque Derbyshire. There he built the colossal Great Orangery, a giant glass house where Paxton pioneered the techniques that would later be used to build London's biggest architectural sensation. As early as the 1830s, while serving as head gardener, Paxton reimagined the landscape of Chatsworth, creating a 16-hectare arboretum and growing exotic crops like pineapples. The idea of modern orangeries was just gaining momentum. and the existing ones at Chatsworth had already fallen into disrepair. Paxton introduced a new roof design, oriented at an angle to the morning and evening sun, and an original metal frame that let in maximum daylight. This approach was quickly adopted by others. In 1836, he began construction of a grand greenhouse, 70 meters long, 38 meters wide, and almost 20 meters high. Even a couple of carriages could pass inside, and a staircase hidden behind rocky ledges led to a gallery with a view of the crowns of tropical palms. The warm climate was provided by 8 coal boilers connected by an underground labyrinth of pipes and a railway that delivered fuel. Up to 300 tons of coal were needed for the winter. However, by the beginning of the First World War, there was a catastrophic shortage of fuel, heating was stopped, and all the plants died. The great greenhouse, insanely expensive to maintain, was soon demolished. But it was here that the technologies were born that made the magnificent radiance of the Crystal Palace possible.
The Third Reich's treasure. A visitor to the popular British show Antiques Roadshow brought in what he believed to be a rare Leica camera, decorated with the Olympic rings, eagle, swastika, and the date 1936. He was sure that the device was connected to the Berlin Olympics and was a valuable Nazi artifact. However, the show's expert Mark Allam, who specializes in antique cameras, came to a surprising conclusion. The camera was a fake. The visitor said that he had bought the camera for £480 from an antique shop, believing it to be a bargain. Allam, impressed by the camera's appearance, commented on its beauty, but quickly noticed details that gave it away. He explained that the antiques market, particularly in Eastern Europe, is awash with fake Leicas designed to deceive collectors. The expert pointed out problems with serial numbers and poor quality engraving, which is unacceptable for an authentic Leica. A truly rare Leica camera could cost thousands of pounds.
A necropolis with 95 crypts. Here is one of the most mysterious and unique places in the Caucasus, the Dargav's necropolis, located in North Ossetia. This medieval architectural complex, also known as the City of the Dead, has 95 stone crypts, many of which are in the shape of towers. The necropolis is located on the slope of a picturesque valley among majestic mountains, which gives it a special atmosphere of mystery and tranquility. Dargav's has a special significance for local culture and history. It is assumed that the crypts were built in the 16th, the 18th centuries and were used as a burial place. Each family built its own crypt, where they buried not only the bodies but also the belongings of the deceased, which is a rare custom for these places. Dargav's became a kind of family archive where household items and even bones have been preserved, which have helped historians better understand the life and customs of the ancient Ossetians. The necropolis is protected by UNESCO as a cultural heritage site, and it attracts tourists from all over the world. There are even stories among locals that anyone who visits the City of the Dead may not return. Today, the necropolis is an important cultural landmark and a reminder of the eternal connection between generations.
A graveyard 3,000 km long. From 1840 to 1860, hundreds of thousands of settlers headed to the American West along the so-called Oregon Trail, a route about 3,200 kilometers long from the banks of the Missouri to the Willamette Valley. They crossed endless prairies, arid steppes, and formidable mountain passes, often spending more than half a year on the road. The journey was full of trials. Lack of food, thirst, disease, and unpredictable weather killed many before reaching their destination. Historically, this region, called the Oregon Territory, belonged to Great Britain, but America laid claim to it after the purchase of Louisiana and successful migration to new lands. The first expeditions of Lewis and Clark and fur trader John Astor paved the way, but it was not until 1836 that the first wagons with settler families set off along the western road. By 1843, about 1,000 immigrants had already formed the famous wagon train of the Great Migration, proving that it was possible to overcome such a dangerous route. However, the road easily turned into a real nightmare. Fast rivers overturned carts, cholera and typhoid fever mercilessly took lives, and careless handling of weapons led to tragedies. According to statistics, there are up to 10 graves on every mile of the trail, and now they say that the Oregon Trail is the longest cemetery in the world. Many of the monuments along it are unnamed because they had to be buried hastily, sometimes compacting the earth with the wheels of wagons so that predators would not find the remains. Thus, the legends and myths about the conquest of the Wild West are closely intertwined with the history of dramatic human destinies. The only one on Earth. Discovered in 2010 in the Mogok region of Myanmar, kyalthuite is perhaps the rarest mineral on Earth. Weighing only 1.61 carats, 0.3 grams, this reddish-orange crystal was initially unnoticed by a sapphire digger. It was only after analysis by Dr. Kyaw Thu that the mineral was given its name, and in 2015 it was recognized as a new mineral by the International Mineralogical Association. Kyalthuite is composed of bismuth and antimony oxide. Despite its apparent simplicity, its atomic structure is unique, making the mineral exceptional. Another unusual property is its high density, 8 times greater than that of water. These characteristics, together with the rare geological conditions of its formation, make kyalthuite a real mystery for scientists. The mineral formed in a pegmatite, an igneous rock formed in the final stages of magma crystallization. Today, a unique specimen of kyalthuite is housed at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County, where it is carefully preserved as a scientific treasure. Kyalthuite remains a unique record of the geological processes that shaped the Earth millions of years ago. Although synthetic versions of the mineral are possible, natural kyalthuite is of great value to science, helping to understand tectonic shifts and the evolution of minerals on our planet.
Holy water from an air conditioner. A funny incident occurred in the Indian temple of Sri Banke Bihari in Vrindavan, which could have happened anywhere, but it is especially striking in a country with hundreds of gods and temples for every occasion. Devotees crowded around a statue of an elephant from which water was dripping. They decided that this was holy water from the feet of Krishna. However, in reality, the water was simply condensation dripping from the air conditioner cooling the temple. For people who had never encountered air conditioners, this explanation was insufficient. Devotees continued to claim that this was the same nectar from the lotus feet of Krishna that the temple servants collect every morning when washing the divine feet. The temple even had to issue an official statement to dispel the myth and warn people against drinking this water. The danger of such water is that fungi and bacteria can form in the air conditioning system, which easily get into the drops. This could lead to infections. But it is worth noting that Indian stomachs are accustomed to unfavorable conditions. Otherwise, they would not be able to buy food at street markets. When this incident was reported on television, believers even took offense at the temple management for not warning them earlier. But how can you convince someone who already believes? It is an almost impossible task. The Shugborough Code Mystery. The 8-letter riddle engraved on the Shepherd's Monument at Shugborough, Staffordshire, has puzzled historians, cipher buffs, and even prominent figures such as Charles Darwin and Charles Dickens for more than 2 centuries. Between the initials D and M are the letters OUOSVAVV, and no one knows for sure what they mean. The monument itself is a loose reinterpretation of the famous painting by Nicolas Poussin, The Shepherds of Arcadia, with the Latin inscription Et in Arcadia ego, I too am in Arcadia, which gave rise to many legends about the connection with the search for the Holy Grail and the secrets of the Knights Templar. Some researchers believe that the inscription on the monument is just an elegant joke. Others are trying to read a hidden religious message in the letters. For example, American Keith Massey, an experienced Latinist and former employee of the National Security Agency, claims that the letters are deciphered as Oro ut omnes sequantur viam ad verum vitam, which is translated from Latin as I pray that all follow the path to true life. In his opinion, this phrase refers to the words of Christ from the Gospel of John. There is another explanation. The pair D and M is interpreted as dis manibus, a Roman formula for the spirits of the underworld found on Christian tombstones. But there is still no evidence for an unambiguous version. So this bizarre chain of letters carved on a stone in the middle of well-groomed landscapes continues to excite the imagination of everyone who tries to guess its secret.
Iconic collection. Missa in Agenda Defunctorum 1733 is a rare artifact from the early 18th century created for funeral masses. Used by priests to read prayers at the altar, this unique collection stands out not only for its content, but also for the dark symbolism of its design. The book's binding is decorated with an image of a skull and crossbones, which emphasizes its purpose in rituals associated with death and remembrance. The collection includes chants and texts of the Latin liturgy, which were used to repose the souls of the dead. The symbolism of the skull on the cover reflects the then idea of the frailty of existence and a reminder of the inevitability of death, motifs characteristic of the Baroque era. Such books were works of art, symbolizing the mysticism and grandeur of Catholic rituals. It is known that bindings with such symbolism were often made specifically for churches or noble families wishing to emphasize their connection with religious tradition. This collection was probably used in a monastery or chapel, serving as a reminder of the need to pray for the repose of souls.
Oldest medicines. Recent discoveries at the Grotte de Pigeon cave in Tafourelt, Morocco, are changing our understanding of ancient medicine. Researchers have found evidence of herbal medicine dating back 15,000 years. Of particular interest is ephedra, a plant used in traditional Chinese medicine to treat asthma, bronchitis, and colds. The study is based on macrofossils found in late Pleistocene layers. Grotte de Pigeon is known as North Africa's oldest cemetery, containing 34 skeletons of Stone Age hunter-gatherers. Ephedra, found in ritual burials, has powerful healing properties, including epinephrine and pseudoepinephrine, which help with nasal congestion and stimulate the nervous system. Preserved ephedra fruits found in the cave indicate its use to relieve pain and stop bleeding during craniotomy, a 150,000-year-old procedure considered one of the oldest in the world. The cave is also known for its ritual tooth extraction, a painful ceremony marking the passage into adulthood. Ephedra likely helped relieve pain and bleeding, demonstrating its importance in the cultural traditions of the ancient inhabitants. These discoveries confirm that humans already had a deep knowledge of the properties of plants 15,000 years ago, skillfully using them for both medicinal and ritual purposes long before the Neolithic period.
Remains of people with enormous heads. Scientists from the University of Honolulu and the Chinese Academy of Sciences have made a unique discovery, having found the remains of a previously unknown species of ancient people, Homo juluensis. This species is believed to have become extinct about 200,000 years ago. At the Zhujiayao site, archaeologists found 16 skeletons, stone tools, and animal remains. The new species is distinguished by their massive skulls with a volume of 1,600–1,700 cubic centimeters, significantly larger than those of Homo sapiens, 1,300 cubic centimeters, or Neanderthals, 1,400 cubic centimeters. However, scientists emphasize that a large skull does not always indicate higher mental abilities. Instead, it could have been an adaptation to the conditions of the Ice Age when the climate became cooler and harsher. Homo juluensis hunted wild horses, ate their meat, and
used their skins to make clothing. They lived in small groups, which made them vulnerable to climate change and other external threats. Interestingly, the dental structure of Homo juluensis is similar to the Denisovans, another line of hominids that existed in the late Quaternary period about 300,000 years ago. However, like many other ancient species, Homo juluensis probably disappeared due to the emergence of Homo sapiens, which genetically displaced local populations in Europe and Asia. A very expensive find. In August, Canadian mining company Lucara Diamond Corp announced the discovery of what is believed to be the second largest diamond in the world. It weighs 2492 carats. The stone was found in the Karo mine in Botswana, where another record-breaking diamond, the 1109-carat Lesedi La Rona, was found in 2015 and sold for $53 million 2 years later. The largest diamond in the world is still the famous Cullinan, weighing 3,106 carats, discovered in South Africa in 1905. To extract such impressive stones, the company used a specially developed tool, the Mega Diamond Recovery System, based on X-ray transmission. This technology is designed to find and extract huge gems that remain hidden in the bowels of the earth. Stone chain. Here is a unique architectural detail of the Gauri Swara temple located in Yalandur, India. The temple was built in the 16th century and is known for its intricate carvings, among which this chain carved from a single stone stands out. Carving such a chain from a single monolith is an amazing example of the skill of ancient Indian stonemasons, which is admired even today. In Indian architecture, each element of the temple has its own meaning and fulfills a spiritual role. Such elements could symbolize the connection between the earthly and the divine, or be an expression of strength and eternity. The Gauriswara temple was built during the heyday of the Vijayanagar dynasty, known for its grandiose structures and attention to detail. recreated the appearance of Jesus Christ. Modern researchers are actively engaged in reconstructing the appearance of historical figures, including Julius Caesar, Cleopatra, and even Jesus Christ. By the way, the reconstruction suggests that Cleopatra was not nearly as beautiful as she is often depicted. Now, scientists have reached the image of Christ, who is traditionally associated with long curls, a beard, and a robe. However, an analysis of archaeological finds and texts suggests that his real appearance was different. According to scientists, Jesus had brown eyes, dark skin, and short curly hair. His clothing probably consisted of a simple knee-length tunic and a woolen robe. This is how people of his time and social status dressed. He led a modest lifestyle, spent a lot of time outdoors, which could have left wrinkles on his face, and his hands and feet were most likely calloused due to hard work. An interesting addition was the discovery of the earliest depiction of Christ, dating back to the 4th century and discovered in modern-day Syria. In this ancient painting, Christ is depicted with short hair and no beard. However, in later Christian art, he began to be depicted with white skin and European features, which became the canonical image. In 2015, physician Richard Neve created a composite portrait of a man from the region based on skulls and anthropological data. This reconstruction suggests that the real appearance of Christ was closer to the Mediterranean than the image we are accustomed to. Dr. Meredith Warren from the University of Sheffield believes that such reconstructions may be closer to reality, although it is impossible to fully prove their accuracy. The lack of lifetime images of Christ leaves room for interpretation. Nevertheless, new ideas about his appearance help to better understand the era and context in which he lived. Rate this video with your thumb up and share it with your friends. This way you will help promote the channel. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Bye, everyone.